All right. So how you doing? So my name is Mike McCormick. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about going outside on adventures, especially adventures with kids if you have them. And then I'm going to go over some of my favorite hiking spots in Atlantic and Cumberland County. So get started here. So who am I? I run a scout troop and I run a Cub Scout pack. I love hiking. I love backpacking. I love canoeing. I love traveling with my family. I've been to 47 states so far and just over half the national parks. I like reading history books, particularly South Jersey history. And occasionally I even find time to go to work where I'm a third grade teacher in Pennsauken. So why am I speaking today? So mostly because I have 4 boys, aged 9, 7, 3, and 1. And someday I would like to, when the last of them move out of my house, to still have some piece of my house standing. So we get them outside a lot. So when my first son got close to 1, my wife, she was pretty tired because she was working and we had little ones just have a lot of energy. So I wanted something to do with him so that my wife could get little breaks once in a while. So I decided to start taking him hiking because I like trees and mostly because he liked trees. So if we stayed in the house and my wife was in the house, he would just cry and cry and cry. And if we went outside, he was happy and would look around and, play in the dirt and all that good stuff. So outside was the easy choice to make. So pretty quickly, we decided we wanted some new places to explore because he wasn't that excited with the same place all the time, as you can see here. So actually, he was pretty fine with it, but I wanted to try some new places. So I ended up getting some books on New Jersey hikes out of the library, and I ended up going to some bookstores and looking at some more books on New Jersey hikes. And I figured out pretty quickly that about 95% of the books are about hikes up in North Jersey. So North Jersey is really beautiful, but I didn't want to spend 3 or 4 hours in the car just to take my kid into the woods. So I got this bright idea that I was going to write a hiking book about South Jersey. So 2 days later, I made another huge decision, which was writing a book is really, really hard. I did not want to write a book anymore. So, but at the time, my wife had a blog, and blogging looked so much easier than writing a book. So I started a blog. I picked the name, South Jersey Trails, and I set out my new mission to write little hiking reviews online with some bad jokes, with some pretty questionable quality pictures that I took, and a healthy amount of adventure with my kid and I and my wife. So I figured this would be like a 6-month project, maybe a 12-month project. And by that point, we would have hiked every single trail in South Jersey. And that would kind of be the end of it. And I could move on to whatever my next project would be. So at the time, I figured maybe about 5 people would ever read my blog. And if my mom could figure out how to make the computer work correctly, she would also come to see pictures of her grandson. So it didn't go quite the plan. So we are 7 years in now. Oh, I'm sorry. We are 8 years in now. As a blog, we've got 200 plus trails that I've reviewed. I've been in the Philadelphia Inquirer and South Jersey Magazine. I've been in various local papers. I've got almost 2 million hits on the website, a scarily large Facebook group, a lot of new friends, and countless adventures later. I'm still at this. And the scariest part to me is with 200 trails reviewed, we still have over 75 on a list that I haven't done yet. And there are new trails being added all the time. People are constantly letting me know about other trails that I haven't seen and done yet just in South Jersey. So I'd be here to tell you how to launch a website that people want to read, but I'm still not quite sure how that happened. So instead, I'm going to talk about going out into the woods with your kids and then share some great spots that we love to go. So before I go, I have to introduce my esteemed helpers here. So they'll possibly wander into the Zoom call lately. My wife's trying to occupy them, but if they haven't already wandered in 6 times, it's probably going pretty well. So my kids, I give them all nicknames. So we've got the tree rider on the left, got the big fella as the little guy there, the Prez, and Kite Flyer. So you're going to see a lot of them. So the first thing about hiking, I hear a few times a month from people who want to take themselves or their kids or their grandkids hiking, but they're a little scared about getting started. It's intimidating. They're unsure of themselves, unsure of their abilities. They have a cousin somewhere that hikes that tells them it's not really a hike unless it's 10 miles and you don't see another person the whole time. Makes hiking a really scary word. So I usually tell people that hiking is the easiest thing in the world. It's literally just walking. Everybody can do it. So it can be in the woods, in the middle of nowhere where there isn't anybody, or it can just be around soccer fields that have a paved path. It's still hiking. You can go 10 miles in 2 hours, or you can take 2 miles to go a mile, or 2 hours to go a mile, aka the I have a toddler that picks up sticks method of hiking. It's still hiking, and it's so easy that my kids can do it. All right, so the next scary part about hiking is the stuff. So you see all this stuff, you don't need this stuff to go hiking. The basics are pretty simple. You probably already have them around your house. So you need comfy shoes. You can get expensive hiking boots. You can get expensive hiking sneakers. I wear Chuck Taylors most of the time. Just comfortable sneakers that'll give you some support, and you don't mind if they get dirty. Next thing you're going to need is a bottle of water. You'll need a little backpack to put stuff in. You can do, I use an old school backpack. You need a whistle in case something happens. You need maybe a snack to bribe your kids with. Big fan of Wawa pretzels in our house. That's good hikers get Wawa pretzels at the end. And then maybe you want some dollar store poncho or some sunscreen, depending on the weather report. So. All right, so next thing you need to go hiking is you're going to need a plan. You have to know where you're going. So this is usually the tough part. So you can look up local hikes online. They also have directions, parking, trail maps. But this information is usually spread out. And that's what I did with on my website was I couldn't find a lot of this stuff or it was in a million places. So I tried to put it all in one spot. So if you go to my website, I've got important info and reviews for hikes I've done with my kids. They're organized by county and then by town. So it's a good starting point. You can kind of see what's around you, see what looks exciting. It's not comprehensive. I won't ever post trails I haven't actually hiked. And then I can't hike every trail all the time. So some trails I haven't done in a while, but it gives you an idea of where to get started. So there are also some apps that can be really helpful, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But the big important part of the plan is once you make a plan, you let somebody else know where you're going. Just in case something happens, somebody knows where you are. So usually I'll text my wife when we get into the parking lot, just letting her know where we are. And then when we're all done, I text her again just to let her know that we are back from our hike and everything's good to go. All right. So the number one fear that people always tell me is about getting lost. So the famous American explorer Daniel Boone, somebody asked him one time if he had ever been lost when exploring the wilds other side of the Appalachian Mountains. And he said, I can't say I was ever lost, but I was once bewildered for about 3 days. So the biggest reason folks tell me they don't go hike is they're afraid of getting lost. So like Daniel Boone, I've been bewildered a few times. I often go out and hike trails that don't really have any information, no maps, no anything, just so I can post about it and put that stuff up so people can go there. So how do I make it out okay? Especially, I've got little kids with me a lot of the time. And the big thing is the tool that almost everybody has anymore, which is a smartphone. These things are amazing. So there are lots of free apps, things like Hiking Project, All Trails, Map My Run, that you click on when you start hiking. So, and they'll lay down a GPS trail. It's like Hansel and Gretel leaving was it Hansel and Gretel? I don't know what it was. Whoever left the breadcrumbs so they could get back to where they were going. So if you get lost and confused, you just take out your phone and you follow the little dot back. And if the dot is on your path, then you're going the right way that you already went. And if it's not, head back towards that path that your phone says you'd already been there. Some of the fancier apps, some of the bigger parks, there might even be a trail map already embedded in there. So show you where you are, which is great because then you can know, if I make a left turn up here, I'll head towards the parking lot. So if a park has a trail map, either online or on paper, take a copy, try to figure out where you are as you go along. Look at that track on your phone and then look at the map, and you'll be amazed how quickly you can develop your map skills. My other favorite thing to do is when I get to a park, if there's no paper maps, I take out my phone and I snap a picture of it because then I just have it right on my phone so I can tell where we're going. All right, so other scary things. The other reason people tell me that they don't like to go hiking is they're afraid of animals on the trail, like this huge grizzly bear that I took a picture of. That is a real grizzly bear. I took that picture. So luckily for us, this picture is from Wyoming. So this particular bear probably won't be bothering you on the trails unless he is very, very lost. So bears are incredibly rare in South Jersey. Most animals are going to be way more scared of you than you are of them. The most common large animal you're going to see out on the trails by far is going to be people walking their dogs. After that, followed by deer. So, but there is one particular set of animals you do have to worry about. So these are the actual scary animals you have to worry about. So these are, as we all know, ticks. So they are unfortunately way too common in New Jersey. And anytime it's above the freezing mark, they can be out. They can carry some diseases, most scarily being Lyme disease. So luckily, there are some things you can do to really drop your risk of ticks. So the first one is invest in bug spray that has DEET in it. Spray this on before hikes. You spray it on the outside of your clothes, particularly your shoes. That's going to really help keep the ticks off. Next thing is, and this is hard sometimes with the kids, keep out of the grass, keep out of the brush. If you see that high grass, that is the stuff that ticks love to hang out in. If you stay out of it, it's going to really reduce your odds of getting ticks. The ticks love the grass. The higher it is, the happier they are. The other things you can do is try to go on wide trails. So especially if it's summer, if it's the height of the season, there are some trails out there. They're 6 feet wide, 8 feet wide. Those are the kind of trails you want to be on when tick season's really bad. A really easy thing that everyone can do, but a lot of people don't, is you wear long pants, you wear a hat. That's not the hard part. And then you wear really big socks like it's the 1980s. You take the bottom of your pants, you tuck it in those socks. People will probably, the ticks will probably make fun of you for looking like a dork, but they're just really jealous that they can't get to your skin to bite you. And then the last thing you can do is do a tick check afterwards. Ticks like warm, dark places, your underarms, the back of your knees, your private areas. Those are going to be the places where you're most likely to find ticks. Do a check afterwards. You can get them and get them off of you. All right. So let's see if we are ready to go. So stuff. Everybody got their stuff? I'm going to assume you all just said yes. Not afraid of bears? Good. You don't have to be afraid of bears. Children? No children? Check. I guess some of our hikes will be quieter than others. So last thing we need to do is some fun places to go and explore in Atlantic and Cumberland counties. So I'm going to check out 5 of my favorite places in each county. So we're going to start with Cumberland County because that's the one that I put down first. So this is one of my favorite, well, they're all one of my favorite trails, so I'll probably just use using that phrase over and over again. So this is the Nature Trail, the PSENG in Commercial Township, the Commercial Township Wetlands Restoration Site. It's in Commercial Township, New Jersey, more popularly known as Bivalve or Shell Pile, right there. Port Norris are all in Commercial Township. So this is mostly a boardwalk trail. Some of it's made with crushed shells, and it goes out over the meadows. So if you've never been into salt marsh, it's pretty amazing. So let's take a peek here at what the salt marsh looks like. So like I said, we've got it's a commercial township. It's 2 miles one way. If you do the whole thing, then it would be 4 miles, but there are spots to get on towards the middle of the trail if you don't want to do quite that much. Kids are going to love the boardwalk. They're going to love 10,000 seagulls. Okay, maybe not the seagulls, but there are, when you get down towards the end and they've got the piles of shells, there are usually crazy amounts of seagulls. And my kids like to look at them and think about chasing them, but then not chase them because they're a little bit worried. So when you get out there, well, here we go. We got a picture here of a bunch of the seagulls hanging out on the shell pile. So the salt marshes are great. One of the big things you can look for them is birds. Tons and tons and tons of different birds out there. Lots of osprey in particular. If you keep an eye out in the water, you might see muskrats, you might see turtles, you might see all sorts of stuff hanging out in the marshes. So where those areas where that salt water kind of starts to meet up with the land and the fresh water, that's a popular place for lots of different plants and animals to hang out. All right, and this shows the other part of the trail with the crushed shells, and this shows a bird that I saw. People assume because I have a big hiking website that I am fantastic with birds, animals, and trees, and I am not so much. They're confusing me with my 9-year-old son, who is a pretty avid birder at this point, and knows about 3 times as many birds as I do. All right, the next one is the Glades Lands Natural Lands Glades Wildlife Refuge in Township, New Jersey. So this is not one trail. This is a series of 4 trails. And when you add them, they're all fairly short. If you add them all together, it's just over 5 miles of trails through the various parts of the preserve. So it's in Township in Cumberland County. As we said, just over 5 miles of trails. Kids are going to love the boardwalks. They're going to love the birds. And if you get lucky, you will see bald eagles, because there are bald eagles. Last time we were there, I had a bald eagle fly probably not even 6 feet over my head. I felt like I could have reached up and touched it, which was a pretty amazing experience. So again, this is going to be like a lot of the trails in Cumberland County is going to be kind of through the wetlands, through the marshes. Again, if you keep an eye out, you might see deer. You're going to use bald eagles. You're going to see all sorts of different kinds of birds. This is also a popular spot for people to come with their kayaks and kind of kayak up and down. So, and here's one of our friends that we saw, which was a snake. So if you look really carefully in the top left picture there, you can see him hanging out. So I was not paying attention, but my oldest son, who was probably 6 at the time, spotted him and pointed him out. And then the snake kind of looked at us, and we looked at the snake, and then the snake decided he didn't want to be any part of us and went away. And then this is one of the boardwalks through the marsh. There are certain spots where the tides will flood out. But it makes for, really interesting walks, especially, if you're 6 years old and all of the plant life is taller than you, it makes it more of an adventure. All right. So our next hike is probably the easiest hike that we have in Cumberland County here. So it's the Morris River Bicycling and Walking Trail in Millville. So this is a great trail because a lot of it's paved, a lot of it's crushed stone. So let's look at the details. So it's in Millville. It's 1.5 miles one way. It's 3 miles if you do the whole thing. Kids will love the water and the river being right there. They'll love the old factories. And this is another spot where we got to see a bald eagle that was sitting on the shoreline and just hanging out. And when we were there, one of the times a guy went by, a runner went by and talked to us for a second, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that bald eagle hangs out there all the time," which I would love to, live in a place or be able to visit a place all the time where a bald eagle just hangs out. So as you walk along the trail, super easy to follow, nice and wide, lots of flowers in the spring. You can see some factories across on the other side. Some of them are still being used. Some of them look like maybe they're not being used anymore. They have lots of big bridges. On the one side, you have the river. On the other side, in certain spots, you have some swamps, which again makes for a whole different bunches of animals that you can kind of keep an eye out for as you're going. All right. Next one in Cumberland County is the Morris River Bluffs Preserve, which is also in Millville. And this one's quite a bit different than the last one that we looked at on the same river. So it's still in Millville. It's about 5 miles, and the kids will love the floating dock. So another popular spot to see bald eagles. And people never believe me until they go, but there are actually hills in South Jersey. They're not really big hills, but you will definitely be breathing hard in certain parts of the trail. So this is my oldest son when he was quite little, enjoying one of the really well-constructed bridges that they have there at the preserve. So the other favorite part of my kid was going out. They have a floating dock out in the river, and you can go out there, and because it's floating, it bounces a lot, and then he laughs a lot, and I get worried he's going to fall in, but he never has yet. You can get really nice views of the river. You can keep an eye out. Like I said, there are eagles along here, lots of other types of birds. And then this kind of gives you an idea. It is called Morris River Bluffs for a reason, because you get to this. There's this one spot here where we hung out for a little bit. That had a picnic table, and you're pretty high over the Morris River. It's I was quite surprised that we got that much elevation. It was maybe 25, 30 feet, but it was a pretty good drop there. It was a nice spot to hang out. All right, our last one for Cumberland County. So this is the Muskin River Preserve, which I am never sure if I'm pronouncing that right, which guarantees I'm not pronouncing it right. So this is one's also in Millville. I have no idea how many miles of trails there. There's at least 3 miles of trails. Since I did this the first time, I went and hiked on the other side of the preserve and did not see any of the first side of the preserve that I'd been to the first time. So there might be a lot more miles of trails there than I'm thinking about. The cool thing about this one, there's a train park there most of the time. There are some ruins of old houses, And then there is are these beautiful, beautiful ponds. So people call them blue holes, which is not quite the exact correct term, but they're not wrong, because when it's sunny out, they are this gorgeous color of blue that makes you feel like you're in the Caribbean. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the marsh that we walked over when we first got there. There have been otter spotted there, river otter. I have never been lucky enough to see one, but it is definitely high on my to-do list, is to see a river otter. So the trail, trails are pretty well. The trail we did, at least here, was pretty well marked. If you go through the loop around one of the ponds, which are actually old sand quarries that have filled up with water, they have got some ruins of some old houses. There's a chimney. As you can tell by my kids' full rain suits, it was pretty wet that day. This is a picture somebody else let me use that they took, because we went when it was cloudy, so the water wasn't very blue. This gives you just an idea of just how blue the water is. And there are people, people have these amazing pictures where you would swear that you're not in New Jersey at all. All right, so those were some of my favorites in Cumberland County. So we're going to move up to Atlantic County. I'll give you a few more of my favorites, and then we'll maybe have some time for some questions. All right, so my first one, I love this hike. So the Egg Harbor Township Nature Reserve in Egg Harbor Township. So as you probably guessed from the name, it's in Egg Harbor Township. So there are 6 miles of trails. Kids will love the birds. Kids will love the hills. Kids will love the old pipes that are lying around. So this is my kid checking out the pipes. I think he tried to crawl through. I don't think he made it. So this is another area that was dug out and it's kind of filled up with water. So you get this beautiful sandy areas where you can really see the sand and the clay. We were there on this creepy, foggy day, which made it even more fun. So it's also got stretches of woods. The big pond in the middle attracts tons of birds, and you can just sit there, like my kid was, with binoculars and just watch the different kinds of birds forever. It's got some marshy areas as well, so you can look out for snakes, look out for frogs, things like that. All right, next one is the Edwin Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge. So this one's in Galloway Township. The hiking trails, there are 2 of them there, total 4 miles. There's also an 8-mile loop. You could walk it. It would probably be pretty uncomfortable because there's no real shade or any cover. You can bike it, which a lot of people seem to really enjoy, or you can also drive the loop. It runs across the top of the dikes. So kids will love the birds, they'll love the marsh, and they'll love the view of Atlantic City in the background. So the one trail does have you go out to an observation platform and you can really get a good view over the marsh. Some of the other trails run on the bits of higher land on the edge of the marsh to give you a little bit of elevation. And then, the really enjoyable part is it's a beautiful drive. You go out there, there's world-class birding. If you follow South Jersey nature groups at all, people go crazy because the snowy owls have been coming there the last couple of years, which, again, pretty awesome thing to see. All right, next one's a little bit smaller than Forsyth. So Hamilton Lake Park and Smith Conservation Area in Hamilton. So they are right next to each other and they're connected. So this is pretty much what it sounds like. It's located in Hamilton. It's about 2 miles of trails. Kids will love the turtles. Kids will love the lake. The trails kind of keep winding back and forth along the lake. So it gives them a bunch of different views of it. Can't promise you snow when you're there, but there was snow the one time that we were there. So the trail starts by Hamilton Lake. Looks pretty normal. There's a lot of baseball fields, things like that. Along the one side, the trail falls along the edge of the lake, and then it goes for a short distance down a road, and then it dips into kind of an isolated peninsula type area that juts out into the lake, and that's the Smith Conservation Area. So when you go over there, these nice big wide trails, lots of trees, lots of stuff to look at, and every time I've been over there, I've been there 3 times. I haven't been a whole lot of other people over there, which was nice. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Mill Pond Trail. It's part of the Port Republic Trail System in Port Republic. So there are a couple different sets of trails in Port Republic. They're all really nice. This particular one's about 2 miles. The kids will love the Cedar Swamp. The kids will love the nice lake. The only thing to be careful about with the Port Republic Trail System is hunting is allowed in hunting season. So you just have to make sure either go when it's not hunting season, or if it is hunting season, you want to wear orange hat, orange vest, which we keep a bag in the car with enough for myself and my wife and all the kids. So it's just a beautiful little stretch of Pine Barrens Trail. I am a huge sucker for cedar swamps. Atlantic white cedars are the greatest tree in the world as far as I'm concerned. And you get in those swamps and it gets quiet and it gets dark. And they've got this really nice smell about them. And the cedar trees are all so straight. My kids get tired of me stopping to like look at every cedar tree as we go along. It's got some nice views of the lake. All right, this next one, this is one of the ones that my kids and I agree is one of our favorites. So Birch Grove Park in Northfield. So it's in Northfield. It's just a town park. It's got just over 3 miles of trails. But the cool thing is this was originally, I believe, a sand quarry. And they dug all the sand up. But unlike the Egg Harbor Preserve, they didn't dig it all out of one big pit. They dug like a gazillion little pits. So what this is there's just these tons of little lakes spread out all over the place. And they've built all these beautiful little bridges across the lakes, which just means there's constant water, constant stuff to look at. So this one's the nicest of the bridge. They built a covered bridge style trail bridge. As you know, we're sitting here looking at this one picture and I can see 3 bridges in that one picture, which is pretty good. When we were there, they had some swans, which was nice. Beautiful lake views. You get some swamps around the edges sometimes. So, all right. So that was our last trail. So I hope you've enjoyed my little talk. I hope you're excited to get out and explore some. So now we'll have a chance if you have any questions. You can have a chance to ask and get this out of the way ahead of time. My favorite animal is a cow. No, I can't believe I have all boys either. And horse Greeley.
Thank you. That was so wonderful. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to type it in the chat, type it in the Q&A, or raise your virtual hand and we'll let you unmute. To get things started, I have a question.
Sounds good.
So what are the rules for exploring a wildlife management area and how do you sort of keep up with the hunting season?
So there's different. So New Jersey has there's a whole different arrays of public and private land where you can hunt, or you can also hike, and they've all got kind of their own rules and their own seasons and their own. So the answer is there's no real easy way. I wish New Jersey would make kind of a more condensed thing where it'd be easy to check. The big thing is that the big gun season for deer is in December, and that's pretty much the same across the board. So that week I stay out of park. I go to county parks where there's no hunting. There are plenty of parks where there is not any hunting. The wildlife management areas, those are the big hunting lands for the state. So I love exploring them, but I usually just kind of wait till deer season's over, because if somebody's out there hunting, they don't need me tromping through with my 4 kids, scaring all the deer away.
Sure.
So, so I wish there was an easier answer to that, but there isn't. New Jersey does kind of keep a broad schedule, and that'll give you the idea of the big time slots, and that's when you go to parks where you don't have to worry about it.
Good information. All right. Do you have a favorite location, like even outside of Atlantic or Cumberland County?
So it's really hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking my favorite child, which is hard when you go 4 because they get mad. So my absolute favorite place to go hiking is the Franklin Parker Preserve out in Chatsworth in Burlington County. They've got my favorite thing to do is they've got the Batona Trail that comes through there for about 7 miles. But then they also have trails towards the other side that don't connect with that one. But they've got bald eagles. They've got these old cranberry bogs that are returning to the wild. They've got these big stretch of forests. The red trail is the one a lot of people like to do. It's 6 miles in a loop, and halfway around, somebody hauled out there and built these 2 giant Adirondack chairs. So there's, I'm sure, thousands of pictures out there of people sitting in these giant oversized Adirondack chairs halfway through their hike. And then coming back on the back end of the way I usually go, it's like almost like an Indiana Jones suspension bridge going over the Wading River. that my kids, they probably crossed it 30 times last time we were there. Eventually I sat down because I got tired of waiting for them.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually probably my favorite hike of all time. Great.
This is weird. As a third grade teacher, I'm used to like people shouting questions over top of each other. This is nice.
Oh, I can't wait to share this recording with so many people I know just couldn't fit this in their schedule tonight. Really good information. And what about if you were to combine hiking and camping?
Well, there's, I mean, any of the New Jersey state parks where you can camp are going to have great trails. I just had my family at Packham Pond last week.
Okay.
Not Packham Pond, oh my gosh. I just had my family at Parvin State Park last week.
Okay.
That was nice. They've got the campground and the lake trail goes right through it. I had my scouts out at Brendan Burn the week before, that's where Packham Pond is. They've got the Potomac goes through there. It's a nice hike. But yeah, I mean, the state parks really, they have some really beautiful camp. Bass River has some great stuff. Belle Plaine has some great stuff.
Okay. And as far as COVID regulations, do you think most things are open now, or it's best to call ahead?
So the state parks reopened in full last summer. The campgrounds are kind of slowly reopening. So April 1st, the state reopened the I guess what they call like front country camping, which is like the car camping where they got the flush bathrooms and the showers and stuff. So those are all open. As of June 1st, the kind of backcountry camping with the outhouses and the water pump, those are going to reopen. Most of those are important state forests. They're going to reopen as of June 1st.
Okay.
So I'm very excited. They have not been open in, I guess it'll be 15 months by the time they reopen. So.
Wow. And how do you reserve something like that? Is that done online or is that a phone call?
Yeah, the state has a website. You just go on there and you can, if you know where you want to go, great. If you don't know where you can go, you can kind of poke around. And they'll show you what campsites are available. And it's some of them are by the site, where it's like $25 for the site. Some of them out in Wharton, you pay by the person. And then there's like it used to be a $10 transaction fee, but I think it's only $5 now.
Wow, how cool.
Yeah, and we do have I'm slowly putting campground reviews up on the website as well, because it's hard to nobody will take a picture of what your campsite looks like, and when you're going to haul out for small children, I mean, I don't care that much because we'll just make do. But it's nice to know hey, is there a picnic table, and that's not always clear on the state park websites.
Yeah, certainly. Your website, I'm just going to say it again for everybody listening. The blog is a phenomenal resource. Really encourage everyone to check that out. Okay. Well, we really appreciated your time tonight. Last call for any questions. If you have them, please type them in or raise your virtual hand. And if not, I guess we're finished.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mike. This was great. Really, really fun.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
All right. Have a great night. Bye-bye.